Princess Lyra of the Centauri Empire stood tall on the command bridge of her royal battlecruiser, the Starweaver. At 19 years old, she was young to command such a powerful ship, but as the only daughter of Emperor Zenthar, she had been trained since birth to lead. Her silver-blue skin glowed under the ship's lights. Her eyes, with pupils shaped like those of a cat, looked out at the stars. "Your Highness, we have detected a small vessel at the edge of our territory," said Commander Krell. He was older than Lyra and had served her father for many years. His skin was darker blue and scars from many battles marked his face. Lyra turned to him with interest. "What kind of vessel?" "Human, Your Highness. A small scout ship, likely on a spying mission." A smile spread across Lyra's face. She had never seen a human up close before. All her life, she had been told stories about these strange beings from Earth. They were said to be weak and primitive compared to the mighty Centauri. Yet somehow these humans had managed to push back against 3 separate invasion attempts by other alien races. "Capture it," Lyra ordered. "I want to see these humans for myself." "As you wish, Princess." Krell bowed slightly. He turned to the weapons officer. "Activate the tractor beam. Pull the human vessel into Docking Bay 3. The massive battlecruiser moved with surprising grace for its size. The tractor beam shot out, a blue light that wrapped around the much smaller human ship. The human vessel tried to escape, its engines flaring with bright orange light, but it was no match for Centauri technology. Slowly, it was pulled toward the Starweaver. "They are sending distress signals," reported the communications officer, a young female Centauri named Vex. "Block them," Lyra commanded. "I don't want any more humans showing up to ruin my fun." The princess left the bridge, followed by Commander Krell and 4 guards from her elite Obsidian squadron. They wore black armor that seemed to absorb light, and each carried an energy spear that could cut through almost any known material. By the time they reached the docking bay, the human ship had been secured. It was a sleek vessel, much smaller than Centauri ships, but with an elegant design that surprised Lyra. Perhaps humans were not as primitive as she had been taught. "Open it," she ordered. 2 technicians worked on the ship's door. After a few minutes, they managed to override the security system, and the door slid open with a hiss. The guards raised their weapons, ready for resistance, but only one human emerged from the ship. He was wearing full body armor that made him look bulky and awkward. His face was hidden behind a helmet with a dark visor. He stepped forward slowly, hands raised to show he was not holding any weapons. "Take him to the detention chamber," Lyra said. "I will question him myself." The guards surrounded the human and led him through the corridors of the Starweaver. Crew members stopped to stare as they passed. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy, and most Centauri had never seen one. In the detention chamber, Liao, humans stood in the center of the room. Guards positioned themselves on either side of him. The room was designed to intimidate prisoners. It was cold, with harsh white lights and walls of polished black metal that reflected distorted images. Lyra entered the room last, taking her time, wanting to make an impression. She had changed from her command uniform into her royal attire, a flowing dress of silver material that matched her skin tone, with a high collar adorned with precious stones from a dozen conquered worlds. "So this is what humanity sends to spy on the superior forces of Centauri." Lyra walked around the human slowly, studying the armor. It looked thick and heavy. "I expected better from the species that claims to have repelled 3 invasions." The human remained silent. The only sign that he was even alive was the slow rise and fall of his chest. "Nothing to say?" Lyra looked at Krell with a smirk. "Perhaps humans are not as intelligent as our intelligence suggested." She turned back to the prisoner. "Remove your helmet. I wish to see what hides behind all this primitive technology." The human didn't move for several seconds. Then, slowly, his gloved hands reached up to the sides of his helmet. There was a hissing sound. As the seal broke and he lifted the helmet away from his head, Lyra had expected to see a weak, soft face. Instead, she found herself looking at a man with sharp features, tanned skin, and the most startling blue eyes she had ever seen. A scar ran from his left temple down to his jaw, giving him a dangerous look. But what shocked her most was his expression. There was no fear in his eyes. In fact, he looked almost amused. "Princess Lyra," he said, his voice deep and confident. "I've been looking forward to meeting you." Krell stepped forward angrily. "How dare you address Her Highness so informally? You will bow before—" "It's all right, Commander," Lyra interrupted, though she was unsettled. "I'm curious. How does this human know who I am?" She narrowed her eyes at the prisoner. "What is your name, human?" "Lieutenant Jake Harlow, Earth Defense Force." His gaze never wavered from hers. "And I know a great deal about you, Princess. More than you might be comfortable with." "Is that so?" Lyra tried to sound unimpressed, but she was intrigued. "And what exactly do you think you know about me or the Centauri Empire?" Jake smiled slightly. It was not a smile of submission, but of someone who held a winning hand in a game of cards. "I know that your father, Emperor Zenthar, has lost 3 battle groups in the past month alone. I know that he's been hiding the true casualty numbers from your people. And I know that you've been sent to this sector not on a mission of conquest, but to find a way to end this war without losing face." The detention chamber fell completely silent. Even the guards looked at each other in confusion. This information was known only to the highest levels of the Centauri government. "You're lying," Lyra said, but her voice lacked conviction. "How could you possibly know such things?" "Because," Jake said calmly, "your empire isn't as secure as you think it is, and humans aren't as primitive as you've been taught to believe." Before Lyra could respond, alarms began to blare throughout the ship. The lighting changed from white to red, indicating an emergency. "What's happening?" she demanded. Krell pressed a hand to his communication device. His expression changed from confusion to shock. "Impossible," he whispered. "Let me guess," Jake said, looking more relaxed by the second. "Your sensors are detecting multiple warships that weren't there a moment ago?" Lyra stared at him, a chill running down her spine. "What have you done?" Commander Krell rushed to the nearest computer terminal. His fingers moved quickly over the screen. The red emergency lights cast strange shadows across his blue face. "Princess, 12 human warships have appeared around us. They were not there before. Our sensors detected nothing until now." Fear crept into his voice. "They have weapons locked on us." Lyra felt her heart beating faster. She looked at the human, Jake Harlow, who stood calmly in the center of the room. He no longer seemed like a prisoner. In fact, he looked completely in control of the situation. "What is this?" she demanded. "How did your ships avoid our sensors?" Jake smiled slightly. "Phase shift technology, not cloaking. Your sensors were looking in the wrong dimension." "Impossible," Krell growled. "No species has mastered phase shift technology. It's theoretical. At best. For the Centauri, perhaps." Jake shrugged. "Humans have always been good at turning theory into practice, especially when our survival depends on it." The main screen in the detention chamber flickered to life. A human woman appeared on it. She wore a dark uniform with many medals and symbols of rank. Her hair was pulled back tightly, and her expression was stern but calm. "This is Admiral Nia Morgan, of the Earth Defense Force," she said. "I am addressing Princess Lyra of the Centauri, royal bloodline." Lyra stepped forward, trying to maintain her royal dignity despite her shock. "I am Princess Lyra. You are trespassing in Centauri space, Admiral. Your actions could be considered an act of war." The Admiral's expression didn't change. "With respect, Princess, your ship crossed into the neutral zone 3 hours ago, and your capture of our reconnaissance vessel was the first hostile act." "That's a lie," Krell interrupted. "We are well within our territory." Jake spoke up. "Your navigation systems have been showing you false information for the past week, Commander. A small adjustment, just a few degrees off, not enough to notice unless you were checking with the stars themselves." Lyra looked at him with new understanding. "You hacked our systems." "We improved them, Jake corrected. Made them more creative. Admiral Morgan continued. Princess Lyra, the Earth Alliance offers you a choice. You can continue this war your father started, in which case we will be forced to demonstrate exactly how outmatched your forces truly are. Or you can agree to peace negotiations. Lyra felt trapped between pride and duty. The teachings of her entire life told her that humans were inferior, that the Centauri should never bow to lesser species. But the evidence before her eyes told a different story. The Centauri do not negotiate with lesser species, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Jake took a step toward her. The guards tensed, but he ignored them. With respect, Princess, that attitude is exactly why you've lost 3 battle groups in the past month. Your people don't know that, do they? Your father has been hiding the true casualty numbers. The words hit Lyra like a physical blow. How could you possibly know? Because Lieutenant Harlow was embedded in your father's war council for 6 months, Admiral Morgan said from the screen. Everything you think you know about human capabilities is wrong. Lyra stared at Jake in disbelief. 6 months? In my father's council? That's not possible, you're human. You look nothing like us. Jake reached up to his face and pressed something near his ear. His image flickered, and for a brief moment, Lyra saw a different face, blue-skinned, with the vertical pupils of a Centauri. Then it was gone, and his human face returned. Holographic disguise, he explained. Combined with some simple makeup for close encounters, your father's council knew me as Advisor Terran, a minor noble from the outer colonies. Krell's face paled to a lighter blue. Terran? The one who suggested the campaign in the Orion sector? That was you? Jake nodded. A campaign that tied up 3 of your battle groups in a region of space where they couldn't threaten Earth colonies. Lyra felt dizzy. Everything she had believed about humans about this war was being turned upside down. Why are you telling me this now? Why reveal yourself? Because this war needs to end, Admiral Morgan answered from the screen. And you, Princess Lyra, may be the only person who can end it without further bloodshed. Me? Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. Jake nodded. Your father won't listen to humans, but he might listen to his daughter, especially if she brings proof of human capabilities that his advisors have been hiding from him. Krell stepped forward. This is treachery. Princess, you cannot seriously be considering. Commander, Lyra raised a hand to silence him. We are surrounded by 12 warships that our sensors didn't detect until they wanted to be seen. I think we should at least hear what they have to say. The commander looked like he wanted to object further, but closed his mouth and stepped back. Lyra turned to face the screen. What kind of proof would I be bringing to my father, Admiral? I would like to invite you aboard my flagship, the Intrepid, Admiral Morgan replied. Lieutenant Harlow will escort you. We will show you the true state of this war, information your father's advisors have been keeping from both of you. This could be a trap, Krell warned. Jake shook his head. If we wanted to destroy this ship, we could have done so the moment we appeared. You're still alive because we want peace, not more war. Lyra studied the human's face. Despite everything, she detected no deception in his eyes. Either he was telling the truth or he was a better liar than anyone she had ever met. If I agree to board your ship, she said carefully, what guarantees do I have for my safety? Admiral Morgan's expression softened slightly. You have my personal word as an officer of the Earth Defense Force. No harm will come to you, Lieutenant. Harlow will remain by your side at all times, and your ship will be free to leave if you decide our terms are unacceptable. One more thing, Jake added. We'll drop our phase shift and allow one of your shuttle pods to scan our ships thoroughly. Before you board, you can verify our weapons are powered down and see exactly what you're dealing with. Lyra considered for a long moment. Everything in her training told her not to trust these humans, but her instincts told her something different. Commander, Krell will accompany me, she decided, and 4 of my guards. Jake nodded. Acceptable. We'll prepare to receive you in 2 hours, Admiral Morgan said. That should give you time to verify our position and prepare your shuttle. The screen went dark. The detention chamber was silent except for the continuing alarm, which someone finally shut off. The emergency lights returned to normal. "Princess, you cannot be serious," Krell said in a low voice. "These humans have deceived us, infiltrated our highest levels of government. They cannot be trusted." Lyra looked at Jake, who had begun to remove more pieces of his armor, revealing a fitted, black undersuit beneath. He moved with the confidence of someone who felt no threat from those around him. "Tell me, Commander," she said quietly, "if they have these capabilities, if they could place a spy in my father's council for 6 months, if they have technology that can hide entire warships from our sensors, why haven't they simply destroyed us? Why offer negotiations at all?" Krell had no answer. "I will meet with this Admiral Morgan," Lyra decided. "I will hear what proof she offers, and then I will decide what is best for the Centauri people." She turned to Jake, who had finished, removing his bulky armor, and stood watching her with those startling blue eyes. "Lieutenant Harlow," she addressed him formally, "it seems you will be my guide into the world of humans." Jake bowed slightly, a gesture that seemed both respectful and slightly mocking. "It would be my honor, Princess. I think you'll find our world very different from what you've been taught." As preparations began for the journey to the human flagship, Lyra couldn't shake the feeling that she was stepping into a new chapter of history, one where everything she thought she knew about humans, about the war, and about her own people would be challenged. 2 hours later, Lyra sat in the royal shuttle as it left the Star Weaver. Commander Krell piloted the small craft himself, unwilling to trust anyone else with the princess's safety. 4 Obsidian Squadron guards sat silently in the back. Jake, Harlow sat across from Lyra, looking completely at ease. Through the front viewport, Lyra could see the human ships. They were unlike any vessels she had seen before. Where Centauri ships were all smooth curves and flowing lines, these human ships had a more angular design. They were dark gray with minimal lighting, making them hard to see against the blackness of space. "Your ships don't look very advanced," she said to Jake. "Appearances can be deceiving," he replied. "Just like your opinion of humans." The shuttle moved slowly among the human fleet. Krell activated the scanning systems, carefully checking each ship they passed. "Their weapons are powered down," he admitted reluctantly. "But they have significant firepower. If they decided to attack—" He didn't finish the thought. "But they haven't," Lyra pointed out. "And they could have." The shuttle approached the largest ship in the fleet, the Admiral's flagship Intrepid. Up close, it was enormous, at least as large as the Starweaver. A docking bay opened, glowing with soft white light. "Ready?" Jake asked Lyra. She nodded, though her heart was beating fast. She had never set foot on a human vessel before. No one in the royal family had. The shuttle landed smoothly in the docking bay. Krell powered down the engines but left the shields. "Up one final scan," he insisted, checking his instruments. No signs of weapon buildup or dangerous energy readings. He sounded almost disappointed. Lyra rose from her seat. "Then let us meet these humans and hear what they have to say." The shuttle door opened. Jake stepped out first, then turned and offered his hand to help Lyra. She hesitated for a moment, then took it. His skin was warm against hers. The docking bay was brightly lit and immaculately clean. It was larger than Lyra had expected, with space for many more ships. To her surprise, a line of human soldiers stood at attention, forming a path from the shuttle to the bay doors. They wore dark uniforms with silver trim. "An honor guard?" she asked, surprised. "Your royalty," Jake said simply. "We respect that, even if we're at war with your empire." A woman stepped forward from the end of the line. It was Admiral Morgan, looking even more impressive in person than she had on the screen. She was tall for a human female, with sharp features and quick, intelligent eyes. She gave a short bow. "Princess Lyra, welcome aboard the Intrepid. I'm Admiral Nia Morgan." Lyra nodded in acknowledgement. "Admiral, this is Commander Krell, my chief military advisor." Krell didn't bow. He stood stiffly, eyes constantly scanning for threats. "Please follow me," the Admiral said. "We've prepared a diplomatic chamber for our discussions." They walked through the ship, and Lyra couldn't help but be impressed. The corridors were wider than those on Centauri vessels with higher ceilings. The lighting was softer, less harsh on the eyes. Crew members they passed nodded respectfully or saluted. "Your ship is not what I expected," Lyra admitted. "What? Did you expect, Princess?" Admiral Morgan asked. "Something more primitive, cruder technology, less elegant." The Admiral smiled slightly. "One of the biggest weapons in this war has been your Empire's underestimation of humanity." They arrived at a large door that slid open silently. Inside was a spacious room with a round table in the center. The walls displayed images of Earth, blue oceans, green forests, white mountains. One wall showed a live feed of the space around them, including the Starweaver in the distance. "Please sit." Admiral Morgan gestured to the chairs around the table. Lyra took a seat and Krell stood behind her, refusing the offered chair. Jake sat to Lyra's left, while the Admiral sat across from her. The Obsidian guards remained by the door, watching everything with careful eyes. "Before we begin," the Admiral said, "I want to make something clear. We did not start this war, but we are prepared to finish it if necessary." "My father says differently," Lyra replied. "He says humans attacked our outposts in the Procyon system, without provocation." Jake leaned forward. "That's what he was told by his advisors. It's not the truth." Admiral Morgan touched a control on the table. A holographic display appeared in the center, showing a star system Lyra recognized as Procyon. 3 years ago, your father received intelligence that humans were building weapons platforms in the Procyon system, which lies in the neutral zone between our territories, the Admiral explained. He ordered a preemptive strike to destroy these supposed weapons. 5 Centauri warships attacked what they thought were military installations. The hologram showed Centauri ships firing on structures in space, but they weren't weapons platforms. Jake continued. They were civilian research stations studying the unusual radiation from Procyon B. 67 scientists died in that attack. Families lost parents, children, spouses. Lyra shook her head. "No, that can't be right. My father would never attack civilian targets. He didn't know they were civilians," Jake said gently. "He was given false intelligence by members of his council who wanted war with Earth. They believed it would be a quick victory that would strengthen the Emperor's position and expand Centauri territory." "What members?" Krell demanded. "Names." Admiral Morgan touched another control. Images of 3 Centauri appeared, all members of the Emperor's inner circle. "High Counselor Varn, General Drex, and Minister Zella," she said. All 3 had invested heavily in weapons manufacturing. A war would make them extremely wealthy. Lyra recognized all 3 names. They were among her father's most trusted advisors. "This is human propaganda," Krell scoffed. "Lies meant to divide us." "Is it?" Jake asked. He touched the table controls, and new images appeared. These were recordings, meetings in the Emperor's palace, private conversations between the 3 named officials, financial records showing massive investments in arms production. "Where did you get these?" Lyra whispered, shocked by what she was seeing. "I recorded them during my time as Advisor Terran," Jake said. "Your palace security is good, but human espionage technology is better." Lyra watched as High Counselor Varn, a Centauri she had known all her life, spoke explicitly about fabricating evidence to convince the Emperor that humans were building weapons in Procyon. "After your ships attacked our research stations, Earth wanted to respond with full force," Admiral Morgan continued. "But our leadership chose a more measured approach. We defended our borders but did not launch a counter-invasion. We tried diplomatic channels first, which your father's council blocked at every turn," Jake added. "They made sure he never saw our peace offerings, our explanations. They escalated the conflict, sending more ships, attacking more targets." Admiral Morgan's expression hardened. "And now, 3 years later, over 20,000 lives have been lost on both sides in a war based on lies." Lyra sat in stunned silence. Everything she had been told about the war, about humans, seemed to be unraveling before her eyes. The worst part, Jake said quietly, is that your people are suffering far more than your father knows. Those 3 battle groups I mentioned? Over 6,000 Centauri soldiers died when they were ambushed in the Orion sector, but the official report to your father listed only 800 casualties. Why would they lie about our own losses? Lyra asked. To keep the war going, Admiral Morgan answered. If the Emperor knew the true cost, he might seek peace, and peace doesn't profit weapons manufacturers. Krell, who had been growing increasingly agitated, finally exploded. Enough of these fabrications, Princess. We should return to the Starweaver immediately. These humans are trying to turn you against your own people. Actually, Commander, Jake said calmly, we're trying to save the Centauri people. And the humans. Because what comes next in this war will be devastating for both sides if we don't stop it now. What do you mean? Lyra asked, a chill running down her spine. Admiral Morgan's face was grim. Both sides have been developing weapons of last resort, planet killers. If this war continues to escalate, it's only a matter of time before someone uses them. The room fell silent. Lyra looked at Krell, whose expression had changed from anger to concern. The Sundering Protocol, he whispered. Jake nodded. We know about your father's project, just as you now know about ours. Mutually assured destruction. No winners, only losers. This is why we need peace, Admiral Morgan said. And you, Princess Lyra, may be the only one who can convince your father of the truth. Lyra stood up slowly, her mind racing. I need time to think about all this, to process what you've shown me. Of course, the Admiral nodded. You're welcome to stay aboard the Intrepid as our guest, or return to your ship if you prefer. Lyra looked at Jake, then at Krell, then back to the Admiral. I will return to the Starweaver for now. I need to verify some of these claims independently if possible. A wise decision, Jake said with approval. Never take anyone's word without verification, not even mine. Lieutenant Harlow will escort you back to your shuttle, Admiral Morgan said, rising from her seat. We'll maintain our position here and await your decision. As they walked back through the corridors of the Intrepid, Lyra's mind was filled with questions. If what the humans had shown her was true, then everything she believed about this war was based on lies. But how could she be sure they weren't the ones lying? Back aboard the Starweaver, Lyra went straight to her private quarters. She needed time alone to think. Commander Krell had wanted to hold an immediate strategy meeting, but she had refused. I need to verify some information first, she had told him. Give me 2 hours. Her royal quarters were spacious and elegant, with large windows looking out into space. From here, she could see the human ships in the distance. They maintained their positions, weapons still powered down. Lyra sat at her computer terminal and entered her royal access codes. Few people on the ship had higher security clearance than she did. If what Jake Harlow had said was true, she should be able to find the original unaltered reports from the Procyon incident. She searched the secure archives, going back 3 years. At first, she found only the official reports, the ones claiming that humans had been building weapons platforms in the neutral zone. But then she discovered a hidden subfolder buried deep in the system. It required an additional password. Lyra hesitated, then typed, Advisor Terran. The folder unlocked. Inside were dozens of files, communications between High Counselor Varn and General Drex, original sensor readings from the Procyon attack, and even video recordings of meetings that had never been entered into the official record. With growing horror, Lyra watched as the truth unfolded before her eyes. The humans had been telling the truth. The war had been started based on lies. Lies told to her father by his most trusted advisors. A soft chime indicated someone at her door. Enter, she called, quickly closing the files. Commander Krell stepped into the room. Princess, we need to discuss our next steps. These humans have surrounded us. We should be preparing a counter-strategy. Lyra studied the commander carefully. How much did he know? Was he part of this deception? Commander, how long have you served my father? She asked. Krell looked surprised by the question. 23 years, Your Highness, since before you were born. And in that time, have you ever known him to deliberately target civilians? Never, Krell said firmly. The Emperor follows the ancient codes of war. Civilians are to be spared whenever possible. Then why did we attack civilian research stations in the Procyon system 3 years ago? Krell's expression changed to confusion. We didn't. We attacked human weapons platforms that threatened our security. Are you certain of that? Of course. I read the reports myself. Lyra turned back to her computer terminal. I've found something you should see, Commander. She reopened the hidden folder and played one of the recordings. It showed High Counselor Varn speaking with General Drex in a private chamber of the palace. The Emperor must never know the truth about Procyon, Varn was saying. If he discovers those were civilian stations, he will end the war immediately. All our plans will be ruined. The altered reports are convincing, Drex replied. He won't question them. And now that human blood has been spilled, they will retaliate. War is inevitable. And profitable, Varn added with a smile. Lyra stopped the recording and looked at Krell. The commander's face had gone pale, his blue skin almost white with shock. This can't be real, he whispered. There's more, Lyra said. She opened another file, the original sensor readings from the Centauri ships that had attacked Procyon. They clearly showed that the stations had no weapons, no military personnel, nothing but scientific equipment and civilians. They lied to my father, Lyra said softly. They lied to all of us. This war was built on deception. Krell sank into a chair, looking stunned. If this is true, thousands of our people have died for nothing. Not for nothing, Lyra corrected him. For profit. For power. The commander was silent for a long moment, processing what he had seen. Finally, he looked up at Lyra. What will you do, Princess? I'm going to tell my father the truth. But first, I need to learn more from the humans. I need to understand what they want in exchange for peace. You believe they truly want peace? Krell asked, skepticism in his voice. They had us at their mercy, Commander. 12 warships that our sensors couldn't even detect until they wanted to be seen. They could have destroyed us without warning. Instead, they offered negotiations. Lyra stood up. Prepare the shuttle. I'm going back to the Intrepid. This time, when Lyra boarded the human flagship, she did so with a different perspective. She was no longer the proud princess of a superior empire meeting with primitive beings. She was a representative of her people, seeking a way to end a war that should never have begun. Admiral Morgan received her in the same diplomatic chamber as before. Jake Harlow was there too, standing by the Admiral's side. You've verified our claims, the Admiral said. It wasn't a question. Yes, Lyra admitted. I found the hidden files. I saw the truth about Procyon. Jake nodded, not looking surprised. And now you want to know what we're offering in terms of peace? Yes, and what you expect from the Centauri in return. Admiral Morgan gestured for Lyra to sit. What we want is simple, an end to hostilities, a return to the pre-war boundaries, an exchange of prisoners, and reparations for the families of those who died at Procyon. That's all? Lyra asked, surprised. No territory? No technology exchanges? No disarmament? We're not conquerors, Princess, the Admiral said. We just want to live in peace. And the reparations? Would be symbolic more than anything else, Jake explained. A way for your father to acknowledge the mistake without losing face completely. He could blame the deception on his advisors, which is the truth. Lyra considered this. It seemed too good to be true. And if I convince my father of this, if he agrees to peace? Then we begin a new chapter between our peoples, Admiral Morgan said. Not as enemies, but as potential allies. Allies? Lyra repeated. Against whom? Jake and the Admiral exchanged a glance. There are threats in this galaxy far worse than either of us, Jake said quietly. Threats that neither humans nor Centauri could face alone. The Admiral touched a control on the table. A holographic display appeared, showing star systems far beyond Centauri or human space. We've detected unusual activity in these regions, she explained. Ships of unknown origin, technology unlike anything we've seen before. They appear to be scouting, mapping, preparing for invasion, Jake added. Lyra studied the display. You think these unknown ships plan to attack? We don't know for certain, Admiral Morgan admitted, but their pattern of movement suggests military, reconnaissance rather than exploration or scientific study. How long have you known about this? Almost a year, Jake said. It's one of the reasons we've been so eager to end this war with the Centauri. Fighting among ourselves makes both our peoples vulnerable to outside threats. Lyra sat back in her chair, trying to process everything. Not only had she discovered that the war with humans was based on lies, but now she was being told of a potential new enemy, one that might threaten both their species. I need to speak with my father directly, she decided. Not through his advisors. I need to show him what I've found, what you've shown me. That might be difficult, Jake pointed out. You're several light years from the Centauri homeworld, and any message you send could be intercepted or altered by those same advisors who started this war. Then what do you suggest? Admiral Morgan leaned forward. We can take you home, Princess. Our ships can reach Centauri Prime in 2 days using our phase shift drives. Your own vessel would take at least 2 weeks. You would take me to Centauri Prime? Lyra was shocked. Right to the heart of our empire? It's a risk we're willing to take for peace, the Admiral said simply. Lyra looked at Jake. And you would come with me to face my father? He nodded. Someone needs to explain how I infiltrated his council. It might as well be me. He could have you executed on the spot. He could, Jake agreed, but I don't think he will once he knows the truth. Lyra felt overwhelmed by the choices before her. If she returned home with these humans, she would be bringing the enemy right to the palace. If her father rejected their peace offer, it could lead to even worse conflict. But if she did nothing, the war would continue and thousands more would die for a lie. I need to think, she said finally. This is not a decision I can make lightly. Of course, Admiral Morgan stood. Take all the time you need. Our offer remains open. As Lyra prepared to return to the Starweaver once more, Jake walked with her to the shuttle bay. It's a lot to process, he said. Finding out everything you believed was wrong. Not everything, Lyra replied. I still believe in my people, in their goodness, in their right to exist without fear. As do I about humans, Jake said. Maybe we're not so different after all. Lyra stopped walking and turned to face him. Why? Did you become a spy, Lieutenant Harlow? Why risk your life infiltrating my father's court? Jake's blue eyes held hers. Because I believed there had to be a better way than war. Because I thought if someone could just break through the lies and mistrust, we might find a path to peace. And now? Now I hope I was right. He smiled slightly. And I hope you'll help prove it. As Lyra boarded her shuttle, she realized something had changed within her. The arrogant princess who had mocked a human prisoner just days ago was gone. In her place was someone new, someone who had glimpsed a larger truth about the galaxy and her place in it. Back on the Starweaver, Lyra called Commander Krell to her quarters. I've made my decision, she told him. We're going to Centauri Prime, with the humans. 2 days later, Lyra stood on the bridge of the Intrepid as it approached Centauri Prime. The human ship had traveled in phase shift mode the entire journey, invisible to Centauri sensors. Now they were about to reveal themselves in the heart of the Empire. Are you ready? Jake asked, standing beside her. Lyra nodded, though her heart was racing. As ready as I'll ever be. Commander Krell and 2 Obsidian guards stood behind them, tense and alert. They had reluctantly agreed to this plan, but they remained suspicious of the humans. Taking us out of phase shift, announced the Intrepid's pilot. Appearing in normal space in 3, 2, 1, the view screen showed the beautiful blue-green world of Centauri Prime, with its 3 moons and orbiting defense platforms. Lyra felt a surge of emotion at seeing her homeworld. Immediately, alarms began to sound throughout the ship. We're being Scanned by multiple defense platforms, reported a human officer. They've detected us and are charging weapons. Open a channel, Admiral Morgan ordered calmly. All frequencies. The communications officer worked quickly. Channel open, Admiral. Attention Centauri Defense Forces. Admiral Morgan spoke clearly and confidently. This is Admiral Nia Morgan of the Earth Defense Force vessel Intrepid. We come in peace, bringing Princess Lyra home with urgent information for Emperor Zenthar. We request safe passage. There was a tense silence. Then a voice responded over the speakers. Unidentified vessel, you have entered restricted space. Power, down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Lyra stepped forward. This is Princess Lyra, daughter of Emperor Zenthar. I verify Admiral Morgan's statement. We come in peace with critical information for my father. I request direct communication with the palace. Another silence, longer this time. Jake touched Lyra's arm gently. They're probably verifying your identity. Finally, the voice returned. Princess Lyra, a direct channel to the palace has been established. Please stand by. The view screen changed to show the Imperial throne room. Emperor Zenthar sat on his throne, looking shocked and angry. High Counselor Varn stood beside him, his expression a mixture of surprise and alarm. Daughter? The Emperor said. What is the meaning of this? Why are you aboard a human vessel? Lyra took a deep breath. Father, I have discovered the truth about the war with humans, the truth that has been hidden from you. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. What truth? The Procyon incident was not as you were told. The humans were not building weapons platforms. They were scientific research stations, civilian stations. High Counselor Varn stepped forward quickly. Your Majesty, the princess has clearly been manipulated by human propaganda. We should send ships immediately to— Be silent, Varn, the Emperor commanded, raising a hand. His eyes never left his daughter's face. Continue, Lyra. I have proof, Father. Original, unaltered sensor readings from our own ships that attacked Procyon. Communications between members of your council who deliberately deceived you to start this war. Proof that our casualties have been far higher than reported to you. Lyra's voice grew stronger with each word. This war was built on lies told by those who profit from conflict. The Emperor's face darkened with rage. He turned to Varn. Is this true? The High Counselor's composure cracked. Your Majesty, everything I did was for the Empire. Humans are a threat that must be eliminated. Before they grow too powerful. Their technology. You lied to me. The Emperor interrupted, his voice dangerously quiet. You caused the deaths of thousands of our people, and thousands of innocent humans. Not innocent, Varn protested. They are our enemies. Only because you made them so, Lyra said. She gestured to Jake. Father, this is Lieutenant Jake Harlow of the Earth Defense Force. You knew him as Advisor Terran. The Emperor's eyes widened in shock as he recognized Jake. Impossible. Jake stepped forward and bowed respectfully. Your Majesty, I apologize for the deception, but it was necessary to uncover the truth. You, a human, in my council for 6 months? The Emperor could barely speak from astonishment. Yes, Your Majesty. And in that time I learned that most Centauri, including yourself, do not want this war. You were manipulated into it by those who stood to gain from conflict. The Emperor was silent for a long moment, processing this revelation. Then he turned to guards who stood off-screen. Arrest High Counselor Varn and General Drex and Minister Zella. Hold them until I return to question them personally. Varn's face contorted with rage. You trust the word of humans over your own advisors? This is treason. The only traitor here is you, Varn, the Emperor said coldly. Take him away. The guards moved in and seized Varn, dragging him protesting from the throne room. The Emperor turned back to the screen. Daughter, bring your human friends to the palace. I wish to see this evidence myself, and to hear their terms for peace. Yes, Father, Lyra said, relief flooding through her. The screen went dark. Admiral Morgan looked at Lyra with respect. Well done, Princess. We're not finished yet, Lyra cautioned. My father is willing to listen, but he must be convinced. That's more than we had before, Jake said. 3 hours later, Lyra stood in the Imperial throne room beside Jake and Admiral Morgan. Commander Krell and the 2 Obsidian guards stood at attention nearby. Emperor Zenthar sat on his throne, having just reviewed all the evidence they had brought. 20,000 dead, he said heavily. A war started by lies and greed. This shames the Centauri Empire. Not the Empire, Your Majesty, Admiral Morgan said diplomatically. Only those few who betrayed your trust. The Emperor looked at her with surprise. You are generous, Admiral, considering what my ships did to your people at Procyon. Holding grudges will not bring back the dead, she replied. We must look to the future, not the past. And what future do you envision between our peoples? The Emperor asked. Jake stepped forward. Peace, Your Majesty. A formal end to hostilities. A return to pre-war boundaries. An exchange of prisoners. And reparations for the families of those who died at Procyon, Lyra added. The Emperor nodded slowly. These terms are more generous than I expected. You ask for no territory, no technology, no advantages. We ask only for peace, Admiral, Morgan said, and perhaps in time, alliance. Alliance? The Emperor raised an eyebrow. Against whom? Jake explained about the unknown ships they had detected in the far regions of space. The Emperor listened intently, his expression growing, more concerned. You believe these unknown vessels pose a threat to both our peoples? We believe it's a possibility we cannot ignore, Jake answered, and we believe we are stronger together than apart. The Emperor was silent for a long time, considering everything he had heard. Finally, he stood from his throne. I accept your terms for peace, he declared. The war between the Centauri Empire and Earth ends today. I will make a formal announcement to our people immediately. Relief washed over Lyra's face. She had done it. She had helped end a war that should never have begun. There is one more matter, the Emperor continued. The deception that led to this war came from within my own council. I need advisors I can trust. He looked at his daughter. Lyra, I am appointing you as my special envoy to Earth. You will work with the humans to establish our new peace and investigate these potential threats from beyond our borders. Lyra was stunned. Father, I'm honored. The Emperor turned to Jake. Lieutenant Harlow, despite your deception as advisor Terran, you showed honor and integrity in your actions. You could have used your position to damage the Empire, but instead you sought only truth and peace. Would you be willing to serve as liaison between our peoples? Jake bowed. It would be my honor, Your Majesty. Excellent. The Emperor looked at Admiral Morgan. Admiral, I hope this is acceptable to your government. I believe it will be, Your Majesty, she replied with a smile. I will communicate your decision immediately. 3 months later, Lyra stood on the bridge of a new ship, the Harmony. It was unique in the galaxy, designed and built by both Centauri and human engineers, combining the best technologies of both species. As special envoy, she commanded this vessel on its mission to investigate the unknown ships at the edge of charted space. Jake entered the bridge and stood beside her. He wore a new uniform that represented both their peoples, neither fully Centauri nor fully human, but something new. The fleet is assembled and ready, he reported. 6 Centauri warships and 6 human vessels, all equipped with the new phase shift technology. And the science team? Ready as well. The best minds from both our worlds working together. Lyra nodded with satisfaction. Then it's time to go. She looked around the bridge. Half the crew was Centauri, half human. 3 months ago, such cooperation would have been unthinkable. Now it felt natural, right? You know, Jake said quietly, so only she could hear. When you first captured my ship, you mocked me for being human. You thought we were primitive, inferior. Lyra smiled. I was wrong. About many things. We both were, Jake admitted. I thought all Centauri were arrogant conquerors. I never expected to find an ally like you." Their eyes met, and Lyra felt that now familiar warmth in her chest. In the 3 months they had worked together, their relationship had grown from reluctant cooperation to mutual respect to something deeper that neither had yet named. "Set course for the outer regions, Lyra," commanded the pilot. "Whatever's waiting for us out there, we'll face it together."